As we all know, part of the home buying process is getting an inspection. Even if you've waived your right to actually get repairs, getting that inspection is going to be essential for your knowledge. And what I have found over the years is that there are 3 common things that show up on every inspection report and 3 that tend to scare my buyers the most. So let's break those down and really look at it a little deeper so that you understand exactly what we're talking about. So let's start with the number 1 thing that shows up on almost every inspection report, and that's caulking. And that's when you have 2 surfaces that didn't quite meet and you need to put a strip of silicone or other type of material between it in order to ensure that water does not penetrate. And you'll find that in bathrooms, kitchens, and on the exterior of the house where the siding comes together, where the window trim on the exterior meets the siding, and so forth. So caulking tends to be a very common thing that we see because of the home settling, weathering, and so forth. So it's not necessarily the scariest thing. Just know that it's on almost every report and it's very easy to take care of. So that's number 1, caulking. Okay, so the second most common thing that we tend to see on inspection reports is related to windows. Whether those windows are stuck and unable to open. Some of them just don't close all the way and latch properly either. And then those windows could have their seals broken, meaning that the gas that's between the 2 panes is actually evaporated, so the insulation value is just not as good. So whether it's the fact that the windows are stuck, whether they don't close all the way, or those seals are broken, just know that those are almost on every single inspection report, believe it or not, even new construction sometimes. And the third most common thing that I tend to find on almost all inspection reports is related to the roof. Now, you might be thinking that the roof is leaking, but it's more so that the shingles are damaged. Whether it's an older roof or a newer one, you'll see a lot of things related to that on inspection reports. It does not always mean that it's causing a leak, but it is something that should be looked at because perhaps down the road, it could potentially bring a leak into your attic. So those shingles are something important, but just know that it is very common and it is something that could potentially be very easily repaired. Okay, in the scariest category would be number 1, having structural or foundational issues. I haven't had it a whole lot on inspection reports, but when it does show up, what we're going to do right away is contact an engineer to come out, assess the situation, and give us a report that we will then present to the seller to discuss potential negotiations for repair. Now, one of the things that I have to tell you is that you will find that you can get structural foundational problems both on crawl space homes and slab homes. So ensuring that that engineer comes out and assesses the whole situation will be critical. Get that report, present it to the seller, and see if you can negotiate repairs. The second thing on the scariest list would be water or mold situations in your crawl space. And not necessarily just in your crawl space for that mold, but generally speaking, those can be very scary. And they tend to find it mostly in the crawl space. So what happens if you find that there is water or moisture in the crawl space and now there is what they call organic growth appearing down there? You're going to want to call a mold remediation crawl space expert to come out and assess the situation and determine, hey, do we just need a French drain in here? Does it need a sump pump? Do we need to fully seal the crawl space and get a dehumidifier? There are so many different things that you could do to help remediate the situation. Get that report and once again, present it to the sellers and see if they are willing to negotiate on repairs. The third thing that scares buyers the most when it shows up on their inspection reports is related to radon levels. Now, if you don't know what radon is, it is an odorless gas that seeps up from the earth and can cause lung cancer. So it is something that you should take very seriously and have a professional test for. Now, the point for which you actually technically, according to the regulations, remediate is when those levels are above 4. But I'm going to tell you there's not necessarily any safe levels for radon, and my buyers, even if it's 3 or 2 or even below that, get nervous and want to talk about what does a remediation system look like? What does it mean long term? And again, the only way to really determine what your next step should be would be to bring in a remediation expert, get a full sense of what the next steps are. If we can, present that to the seller and see if they are willing to negotiate on repairs. So with all this in mind, what do you think for yourself would be the scariest thing to show up on an inspection report? Be sure to comment below so that I can make more videos about this and help inform you about the best buying and seller tips here on YouTube.